everybody, this is the Rabid Hedgehog, and this is going to be my ride and review of the 2018 Indian Scout Bobber. Bobber came out a year ago or a couple years ago as the more stripped down, blacked out variant of the Scout line. Kind of mid-range pricing too at $11,499 or so, MSRP, and the Thunder Black like what we have here. Biggest difference is that they've laid these shocks down to give her a little bit lower slammed look. 2 inches of travel here, and you have the 41mm fork up here with about 4 inches of travel, and of course the chopped style fenders. You don't have the big fenders like you do on the other one. A different seat type, and then of course you have the more drag style bar with the bar end mirrors on the lower end here. Now they do have LED turn signals on board as stock. Like I said, the engine's blacked out, the dial is blacked out, everything's blacked out on this motorcycle, which I do like, and it still weighs about 554 pounds. I want to thank Indian of Oklahoma City for allowing me to do the test ride on this motorcycle. Let's go ahead and take her out on the road. Okay, so let's go over the controls real quick on this Scout Bobber. And you see, we have a slightly back from full forward, so it's a kind of a midway between full forward and mid-mount drive. You have your key there. And then on the right side, you have, of course, your kill switch and your starter. I'll go ahead and make sure this is neutral real quick. There we go. Get that started. And over here you have your horn, hold for your hazard light, flash to pass, and then you have your toggle here so you can go through, check out your ammeter, odometer, trip, tachometer, current outdoor temperature. Well, that was engine temperature, excuse me, but outdoor temperature is pretty close today. So, and as you can see, full analog style speedometer. You have a digital tacho in there, you have a gear indicator, and then you have side stand, you have bright, you have hazard, you have your turn signals, your ABS light if it was equipped, your fuel light as well. Let me get this all set up for me to see here. I actually like how this, how Indian of Oklahoma City puts these mirrors on here upside down versus the right side up variant. Alrighty. Alrighty, as we're getting to go here, sorry about the craziness of downtown Oklahoma City right now. They're doing quite a bit to it. We're adding a streetcar down here, so we get all these bumps. Of course, that helps you test the suspension out and everything. Alright, getting going here on the Bobber. Of course, this is slightly different setup, like I said in the intro, than the standard Scout. You have a different seat, which is a little bit actually more stiff. It's not as comfortable as its brethren. The bars are down lower, so you don't reach out and be a little bit more like this. You're down about an inch or two. That way you're more down onto the bike. With the feet position being slightly back too, you have a little bit more aggressive stance on this motorcycle. And of course it does allow you to flick this bike very, very quickly too. Of course, I love the blacked out look of this motorcycle, including the dial as well. I always like bikes that are blacked out. With the mirrors upside down, you give a good look and you can see very well behind you. Don't mind that at all. Alright. And just like as I've come to expect of the Scout, very nice chassis. Very light feeling bike for 550 pounds. This is a 1130cc engine, just purrs right along. Now the friction zone on this motorcycle, as you will see, come up, get about halfway, and there she starts to go. Just like the traditional Scouts, This one does have the single disc on the left side for braking on the front, and of course you got your single disc on the rear as well. It just sits so low to the ground. I forget about that with the Scout, but like I said, this seat, I'd have to trade the seat out, because the way the stock seat is for me, I'm a bigger guy of course, kind of digs into a weird spot on me. So it's not as comfortable for sure as the stock regular Scout's seat. But this is designed more for that urban brawler, bar hopping kind of motorcycle, so that way you can just jump on by yourself and go bashing around town in a very easy, quick package. Now, highway speeds looking about 65 miles an hour. You're in 6th gear, you're going to be looking at about 3,350 RPM with our little digital down there, which means this thing's not really rotating all that much. Stay in the power bound though, of course I'm kind of doing the same. I got her back down to 4th gear here, 50 miles an hour, 3,200. Of course I like to keep them in the power band a little bit different. Now the suspension on this one's been laid down a little bit more to give her a lower look. Now I can tell you, you could definitely feel a little bit choppier suspension coming out of this motorcycle versus its regular Scout brethren. And the traditional fork stays put on this motorcycle as well. But you know, it handles these bumps pretty decently. You can feel it get a little chattery here and there. But really, I've rode a lot worse than this. The suspension is still very tight. The front end does have a little bit of softness to it. But overall, it rides very well, even on these broken roads. And it is also aided by the fact this thing has some meaty tires on it. That's what I love about the Scout, is just the big meaty tires that helps absorb a lot of the issues that you can get with thinner wheels. Now, as to be expected, the 100 horsepower, 1130cc Scout engine just pulls right off, and acceleration is amazing on this bike. The power is smooth all throughout the range. This engine does not produce very much vibration at all. Check out that. That's a very smooth picture behind me. It just settles in very nicely, so it doesn't fatigue the rider in any way with the vibrations. And to be honest, it's quite a toasty day, and I don't feel anything of heat really building up on any particular part of my body, which is nice. The air is managing to keep this engine from pushing heat everywhere else on me, you know, diving it off to a foot, diving it off to a leg or something like that. So it feels really good to ride, with just no heat or anything right now. We'll get her warmed up a little bit here in a moment, but I mean, this bike has such a nice chassis, and it's such a tight motorcycle. It just responds so well and so quickly. And this is supposed to be a cruiser. I love this bobber, man. The way it looks, it's a very clean motorcycle as well. and the ergonomics of it are just fantastic. Engine braking on the motorcycle is also very good as well. You can get you down. And like I said, this thing can turn, scrape a peg a little bit there, my bad. Sorry about that again. But this bike is able to get down there and scrape the pegs. I mean, it just turns so well. It's so confidence inspiring. That is the one thing about the chassis on the Scout versus, say, your Harley-Davidson Sportsters or some of the other cruisers in this category. They're kind of top heavy and they don't feel like they can really get down and dirty in the turns, but the Scout sits so low and the center of gravity is so low in this motorcycle that this bike is really well balanced, and you can dive off into turns and dive off into corners and drag the pegs so easily without worrying about feeling like tipping over or anything like that. It's just, you just don't realize you're going to hit those pegs until you absolutely do dive down on them. You're like, oh, hey, you know, you feel comfortable doing it. It's a chassis that definitely is alive. It's definitely more exciting than a lot of different cruisers that are out there. I mean, the Vulcan S is a fun motorcycle. It's a lot less displacement, but it's very similar to this in how fun it is too. But to have that, or this much more motorcycle in terms of the power, in terms of the weight, in the terms of everything about it, be able to perform just as good as the smaller, cheaper motorcycle, that it's actually incredibly interesting. That's just the way this is designed and the way it handles itself. I love this motorcycle. I love the Scout series for sure, and this bobber is a very nice addition to it. I mean, it rides very similar to its older brothers. It definitely looks the same too, but it carries the blacked out look. It carries the lower bars, the more slam suspension, and I mean, it rides very well for everything that it's worth. It's just such an easy motorcycle to approach and ride and enjoy. You don't really have to worry about, well, anything. I mean, if you're a new rider, you're so easy to get to the ground with this low seat height, and with the pegs being slightly, you know, mid and kind of not fully in front of you, it's just kind of more of a comfortable position. I mean, look at the way my knee is. It's not stretched out or anything of that nature. It's just perfectly right down there. Of course, I'm taller, and that helps a little bit on that. But, you know, for somebody who's brand new into motorcycling or looking to get something comfortable, then this is just a bike you could just jump on and enjoy. Like I said, I would change the stock seat. This one's a bit, like I said, for my body, it's a bit weird. It kind of stabs me in the keister a little awkward, and I haven't found a spot yet where it doesn't feel weird at all. But they do make a Springer style seat on this motorcycle. I can show a picture of that here. And I've sat on that motorcycle before, and let's put it that way, it was a fantastic feel. It felt like a classic seat, but it was very comfortable as well. And you know, that one also has the mini apes, and that's something you could do on this bike too. Keep the bobber look, put that Springer style seat on there, put the mini apes on there, and then you have yourself a really long range cruiser. You know, throw some bags over it and have a good time with it. I mean, this thing's fully customizable as it is, and that's one thing you can do, and keep this bike for a long time to come and constantly change it up, never have anything the same. And that's awesome about these. I mean, they're clean slate, which is cool. The bike itself is a very good handling bike. The engine has incredibly good power, and it basically just stays smooth. The transmission's precise. It's a nice 6-speed transmission. It is a little tall between 1 and 2 with neutral in the middle. You'll hit that every once in a while if you're a little bit not used to it, but once you get that down, you're good to go. Brakes are fantastic on this motorcycle. The single front and the single rear disc do just fine bringing her down to a halt. Of course, you can get this outfitted with ABS if you need it, but I really don't see why you would in this one. I mean, it stops just fine, brings it down just fine without worrying about locking up. But I mean, this bike is just a fun little joy to ride, and like I said, you can tell the suspension's a little stiff. You'll hear some chop in my voice as I go over some of these bumps here. But It's something that it's easy to get used to. You could probably work a little bit out of it with the preload. It's not preload to my body, so I could work a smidge of it out, but there's not adjustable rebound or anything like that, and there's no adjustable preload in the front fork either. So the front fork, like I said, is a little bit soft. I would recommend getting that stiffened up a smidge if you plan on some more spirited riding. But if they're just going to buy this as a cruiser and an everyday rider, bombing to and from work or bombing around the city, going to see the friends, having a good time with some riding and hanging out, and this bike is a perfect way to do it. And it is still, you know, it's kind of an expensive bike, but it's worth it to me. I mean, it's really well put together. It'll last you a long time. It'll bring you many, many, many smiles. Like I said, this engine braking is good, but this dive, look at that, woo, dive. Yeah, a little soft on the front, but not too bad. Not too bad. Something that it's not as bad as I felt some very soft ones before. So you can get over that dive pretty easily, but yeah, it runs real well. It's a fantastic riding motorcycle, and I highly recommend taking a look at the Bobber if you're looking for something that's stripped down, blacked out, and fun to ride everywhere you go. All right, everybody, this is the Rabid Hedgehog, and we'll catch you on that next ride.